Hello and welcome back to Between Two Stethoscopes, your source for the physician assistant life from pre-PA to PAC. I'm Bree Marks, your host. According to the AAPA, 25% of all practicing physician assistants are in outpatient primary care. That means that the rest of us are in some form of specialty, and I'm going to include pediatrics, OBGYN, and hospital medicine in that broad category, even though sometimes they're considered under the umbrella of primary care. Basically, all physician assistant schools teach a generalist medical model, which is great because as PAs, we're taking care of the whole patient. However, if we're learning a generalist medical model, how do we transition into a specialty right out of school? So our guest today is going to help answer that question. We have Natasha Ireifej, who is a newly graduated physician assistant working in neurosurgery. So thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And by the way, many of you have asked me to talk about physician assistant postgraduate residencies or fellowships. That's going to be an upcoming episode, so we won't be talking about that today. So Natasha, can you just give us a little rundown on your journey to becoming a PA?
Sure. So like Bree said, my name is Natasha. I'm originally from Rockland County, New York. I graduated from Arcadia University in May of 2018, and I started working as a neurosurgery physician assistant a couple months after I graduated. After I graduated college, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to work in healthcare. But for all I knew, the only route that I saw was, being a doctor, and I wasn't sure I wanted to pursue that route of medicine, especially given that it is so much schooling and it's not something that you want to take lightly. So somebody before I had graduated had mentioned the PA profession. And so after I graduated, I did my research and I realized that this was the job for me. It offered me the opportunity to be in healthcare, but have so much more patient-to-patient contact. And also I think the best aspect is that we're malleable providers and that we get to choose whatever specialty we want to, and we can mix and match through our years of practice, and kind of get a taste of all the different types of medicine and not have to kind of solidify one area that we want to do.
Right. So what rotations did you enjoy during your clinical year?
So I liked all of my rotations during my clinical year. I felt like I got really lucky with what I matched with. But I think the ones that I really liked the most were my surgery rotations. And I did end up with 4 total during my clinical year. And I just really loved the OR. I loved working with the doctors in the OR, kind of that really good teamwork aspect of the advanced practitioner doctor relationship. I think really was a big draw to me. And also the OR itself there's just something about, there's order, everything just makes sense. And also having that follow-up afterwards in the clinic, following your patients, creating these patient relationships, it just kind of gave me the best of both worlds in all of the surgical rotations that I had, and it really drew me in.
Great. And well, tell me about your job search. So when did you start? You said you graduated in May. So when did you start, and what was that process like as a soon-to-be new grad?
So I started applying for jobs, I believe, in March of 2018, and I'm not going to lie, it was a little daunting. You kind of go in with an idea of what you want to go into, but sometimes it's difficult because a lot of the jobs are posted for PAs or nurse practitioners even that have at least 1 year of experience, which as new grads, we're not going to have that. So you really have to try your best to stand out as much as possible. And the only way we can really do that is by putting our fantastic clinical experience on there. Anything that you did, anything you can pull in that you think could be relevant, make sure you really highlight that, because that's going to be the experience that's going to kind of push you over the edge if you don't have, the clinical experience yet, technically in a job yet. And, the hope is that you apply to enough jobs, don't count anything out, apply to as many as you can, and hope that they give you a call back and that you can go into an interview and kind of really showcase your personality and how passionate you are about the field, and show your interest, and hope that they feel like you're a good match for them.
Absolutely. And you were saying highlight both your pre-PA school clinical experience and your rotations. Right. Okay, and how did you choose neurosurgery? What about that appealed to you?
Neurosurgery was one of the 4 rotations that I had that were surgically based, and it was the best rotation that I found that really highlighted that advanced practitioner-doctor relationship that I really, really loved. I loved the OR, being in the OR with each of the provider teams. I just felt like they worked so well together, and I just really wanted that kind of experience when I was out on my first job, to have that close-knit relationship with my doctors, whoever they may be, to kind of work as a team so in sync with one another. It was really magical to see that in the OR. And then also the follow-up afterwards in the clinic, to see how patients really progress, especially in a neurosurgical field where you're working with spine patients and brain patients that have real medical problems, that it's amazing to see their progression from the OR to after the OR. And I just really loved the field, and it was so interesting to see that kind of anatomy so close up in the OR. It was really amazing.
Well, you know, I love the brain. And fun fact, my first job was also in neurosurgery.
Woo!
So has anything been difficult or unexpected about choosing a subspecialty as a new grad?
So I think the most difficult thing is that in PA school, we don't really focus on neurosurgery. We focus on neurology, and we touch upon some things, but we really don't focus on neurosurgery. And so coming into this job, I knew that most of my knowledge was going to come from actually learning on the job, which as PAs, we go into every job knowing that's what it's going to be like. You're going to learn as you go when you get into the workforce. I think what was important to me when I was looking for a job is that, yes, I was going to be fresh out of school and not really know too much, especially in a subspecialty, but that I was going to have a great learning experience, and that I was going to be working with people who valued my education, who wanted me to excel. And I've been really lucky to have a lead PA and attendings that really care about me knowing not only what we're doing, but why we're doing it. So it continues to solidify my understanding of neurosurgery, but then also in the hospital setting, working with so many other disciplines that are so eager to teach you their side of medicine. I think that's also very valuable as well. So it's a little scary to go into a subspecialty, but I think when you go into your interviews, really get a feel for the environment you're going to be in, because at the end of the day, you want to be somewhere that's going to value the idea of teaching, because that's the only way you're going to learn.
Right. You don't want to be another warm body that's just filling a spot. A question I hear all the time is, won't I lose all of my medicine if I go into a subspecialty right out of school? And I think the crux of that question is, won't I forget everything that I've learned if I'm only focusing on one body system?
So I don't think you're going to lose all of your medicine when you go into a subspecialty. That's the beauty of being a physician assistant, is that we are malleable providers. We go to school with the understanding that we're going to learn as much general medicine as we can, and that we're going to do most of our learning out in the clinical world. And so, you know, even though I'm in neurosurgery and I'm focusing specifically on the spine and the brain, I'm not, I'm still responsible for, looking at lab values and looking at imaging and being able to read imaging. And I'm also,
EKG,
exactly, I'm responsible for all of that still. And so those basic knowledge points that we learn in school, I'm still touching upon. But in addition to that, what I think is most important is that you're learning how to be a clinician no matter what specialty you go into. You're learning how to speak to patients. There's one thing to know medicine, but there's another aspect of medicine that I think, can't be taught in the classroom. It's something that you have to experience once you get out into the workforce. And so talking to patients, especially when it comes down to talking to patients about bad news, about their health, that's very important to learn. Working in a multidisciplinary environment where you're coordinating with other providers is very important as well. Advocating for your patients and continuing to learn. Those are all things that no matter where you are, whatever specialty, you're going to be learning those. And those are aspects that you can continue to take with you no matter where you go. I'm in the OR, so I'm learning valuable OR skills that I can take with me to another profession. I'm also doing, inpatient care, and that's something that I can also take with me. Continuity of care. Those are all things that no matter what specialty I go into next, I'm going to take those valuable lessons with me and be able to jump into a new profession, have a little bit of wiggle room to learn, but be able to pick it up and excel.
Absolutely. Well, Natasha, what advice would you give to someone that is about to be a new grad that's thinking about going into a subspecialty?
I feel that the best advice is just to go for it, especially on your rotations. If you've really fallen in love with a specific specialty, don't worry about, feeling like you're not going to remember your medicine. Especially as your first job, you want to go for something that you're truly interested in, that you're going to feel passionate about continuing to learn, and that you feel like a good learning environment is going to be created from this job, because it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what specialty you go into. You want to make sure you have a good learning environment. And if that happens to be a specialty, then go for it. We are malleable providers, as we've kind of talked about several times. So we have the opportunity to go to specialty and be able to learn on the job. And I feel like that's one of the best perks that we have about our job. We are in school for 2 to 3 years learning what we need to learn, but our education doesn't stop when that diploma hits our hand. We are forever learners. We are going to continue to better ourselves, to educate ourselves. And so the learning doesn't stop once we graduate. You're going to continue to learn on your job. And I think if that means that leads you to a specialty, then I'd say just go for it.
So don't let it hold you back.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I think especially, for all of us that have entered into this field, it's been a long road. We've sacrificed a lot. We've had to put a lot of things on hold. So if your dream is to go into a specialty, then do it. If your dream is to go into primary care, do it. We need everybody. And, the field of medicine is growing and growing. So just go after what makes you happy. You've earned it. Go for it.
Exactly.
So Natasha, thank you so much for being with me
Thank
here
you for
today.
having me.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe, especially if you're on YouTube. And you can also follow me on Instagram and on Facebook at Between Two Stethoscopes. So we'll be back soon with a new interview. So thank you for tuning in. Have a nice night.